Our prototype is almost feature complete compared to the original game. The player can watch the briefings, finish the missions, and save the game for later. Now we're going to enhance the game by allowing the player to zoom out and see larger areas. We'll also modify the briefing with an option to skip the mission and go straight to the debriefing sequence. These enhancements are the final step in prototyping before we have to decide to either continue with GameMaker and fill in the content, or break away and design a custom engine to support our feature set. Let's go into GameMaker and look at the keyboard object. The first enhancement that I thought about is to allow custom keyboard mapping for players who don't like the original keys. I decided not to do that for now, but if we wanted to, we could break the logical connection here with a data structure that maps keyboard codes to text. Instead of pushing text commands, we could push whatever the data structure indexes the keys to do. Ideally, this map would be created at runtime by reading in a configuration file that the user could text edit to fit their desired keyboard layout. But what we are going to do here is add the W, X, and Z keys that we'll use this time. We're going to use the X and Z keys to control camera zooming during mission play. We'll start by adding some zooming related variables to the camera. This first is a trigger, and the next two are zooming state flags. Finally, we'll have a variable that holds the width of the current view. Now let's add our keys. X will zoom out if there isn't already zooming in progress. And Z will zoom in. Now we'll make the zooming happen. So to make a smooth transition, we'll increase the size of the view in 10% steps until the whole window reaches a multiple of the screen size. So it'll go from 320 by 200 to 640 by 480 and so on. Zoom in will be the same, except with the caveat that we won't zoom in further than the original game. Both zoom modes will set the rescale trigger that we'll handle right now. Whenever we rescale, we have to make sure the camera border is half the new window size to make sure the ship always stays centered if possible. That's it. Let's test. Looks just as intended. Now, at zoom levels like this, we could boost performance by implementing MIP maps, but that's an entirely different discussion. It does get a little ridiculous, and there are better ways to tweak this. I'll leave it here for now. So now let's make a way for the player or beta tester to skip the mission completely. The best part of this game is the dialogue, and sometimes that's all we want to see. We'll create a new object that will logically insert between the briefing object and the next room. When the new object is destroyed, it'll go to either the mission room or the debriefing room, depending on our key press. Let's go to the briefing object and break the chain. We'll send the mission title to the new object so we can print it to remind the player where they are before they skip. Now we'll build up the new object by registering the keyboard and making the reference. Now some variables: alpha, fading, a variable holding the next room which will default to the mission room, and 2 lines of text. The mission title is sent from the parent. The subtitle tells the player how to skip. On destroy, we'll deregister the keyboard and move to the next room, whatever that happens to be. I'll copy the usual input procedure from the camera. So we're looking for 2 keys. W will force the skip by changing the next room. Any other key will force the player to the mission. I guess I'll add an escape key for auto-destroy as usual. We'll control everything with fading as we've always done. Fade in and wait. fade out, and destroy. Now for the drawing. We'll draw the mission banner centered. We don't know the size, so we'll compute it repeatedly on draw. Not efficient, but I'm in lazy mode right now. We'll copy that idea and use it to draw the subtitle in green at the bottom. Let's test our new mission skip feature. A subtitle text isn't centered. I guess I forgot to change how it's measured. Probably still based off the banner up the top. Hit W. Now we're at the debriefing with 0 kills. Let's save over that broken game from last time and we'll test loading. Okay, saved after mission 1 with 0 kills. Now before we test, we'll have to handle the case where there isn't any briefing or debriefing storyboard. Remember, that's why we crashed in the last video with a broken mission 13. The default for all missions that aren't defined will be to simply end the briefing immediately. Now we can play more missions without setting up the briefing. Let's go back and load that save game, and we should be able to play the default mission for level 2. Alright, mission 2. I've been playing mission 1 forever, so I don't really know this mission. The default mission is just to kill everybody, though. Alright, mission complete. Looks like everything works. So that's it. We've added new features to the game that aren't included with the original. We can continue on, dream up new features, other gameplay mechanics, or anything else we want. The prototype is a development playground for testing ideas quickly before solidifying everything in a rigid design. Our final video will tie up some loose ends so I can distribute it as you've seen it built. We'll fix at least one serious bug and talk about some of the missing features. I'll also fill in some of the content and talk about how to either make this prototype content complete or start development with a new platform.